Well, good morning, church family. It is great to see you. My name is Barrett Bowden, and I'm lead pastor here at Island Community Church. On behalf of our elders and leaders, thank you for being with us today. If you're new today, a special welcome to you, and would love to get a chance to know you after service. I usually try to stand by the door and talk to everybody, so if you've got a minute, I'd love to meet you. This morning, our primary passage is going to be from John chapter 15, which you just heard read. And so if you've got your Bible, I want you to at least get your finger there. We're going to be hopping around quite a bit today, but that's going to be our primary landing place, and I want you to identify that in your Bible if you can. We today are actually going to be beginning a journey together. In this summer season, we have been led by God to focus on what we're calling experiencing God. And it's based on a time-tested, incredibly rich study named by this very series title called Experiencing God, that was written by a guy named Henry Blackaby and another guy named Claude King. Claude is actually a dear friend of one of our ICC elders, Tom Crocker, and was here last summer. If you remember, Claude came and spoke to us actually, and that was a real joy to have him. But we're going to be walking together through 7 realities that the Bible talks about what the invitation that God gives us to really experience Him. And I'm really excited this summer to be able to walk through this together. I remember as a little teenage boy going through puberty, my voice was squeaking, I had braces. Any guy knows what I'm talking about, right? You're trying to figure out how to be cool enough to get the girls. I was in the 90s and had the shell hemp necklace, you know what I'm talking about? That was like me. You got that down to Panama City. That was really cool. You bring that back and you wear it all the time and all that on your wrist. Some people are still wearing them. I'm not cool enough anymore. But anyway, I remember as a teenager, our church walking through this study, and I've walked through it several times in the course of my life since then. But I remember how transformative it really was to really understand and to really lean into these very simple but profound realities. And many of you in the room perhaps have been through this study, you've perhaps read the book. I'm going to be just simply walking through the content of the study this summer, but I am really telling you, I really believe God has something for us in this. We all do as a leadership team. We picked this study months ago, but in recent weeks, there's just been so many confirmations again and again that this is exactly what God would want for us for this summer season. This past week in particular has been really challenging. Some of y'all know some of the things that have gone on. Before I go further, I do want to recognize the presence of one of our very loved missionary families, member missionaries from our church. We use the name Johnson in a setting like this, but they're actually here this morning, and I didn't know if they would be, but I want to say how much we love you, how much we are with you, how much we appreciate you, and how sorry we am for all that you guys have walked through the past week. But church family, can y'all just show love and appreciation for the Johnsons who are right over here? We love you guys so much. We're so thankful for you. Some know the context of why they came home in the way that they did, and just in the middle of a real family crisis and mourning over death. And I'm not going to lie, there's been a lot of tears cried by them, their family, but also many around them. This past week, myself included. Really, really hard. Later in the week, I got a phone call from someone else in our church who was going through a medical crisis in the middle of the night, and several of us rallied around them and rushed there to the hospital. Thank God they're okay. But I was sitting there, and just in the course of events, just over the last 7 days, I was just thinking, God, would you wake me up to the things that are most important? Would you wake me up? Would you wake my soul up even more to the things that are eternal, that are things that are of you? It's just, I don't know about y'all, but sometimes we have to kind of go through crises and circumstances to kind of bring it, to kind of help us shake off just some of the religiosity of Christian culture. I know that for many of us, there's a yearning in us. There's got to be something more. There's got to be something more than just continuous religious activity, right? There's got to be something more. And this week, I was just going, God, it just feels like sometimes in the really broken places of life that you just go, God, I just want to know you. I want to experience you. I really need you right now. And God, I don't just want to know about you. God, right now, I want to know you. And I really believe that the yearning of this summer season, the invitation that God is giving for all of us, for you, is to actually lean into that spiritual hunger. I put here on the screen that there is a spiritual hunger in us. There really is. I believe we all know it to be true. As we yearn to know this something more, we can also identify there is a spiritual hunger in us, in our hearts and in our lives. A hunger to actually experience God. Not just on these kind of mountaintop moments or in these deep valley moments, but on a daily basis to actually so walk with God in intimacy and experience Him personally. Psalm 25, verses 4 to 5, and I hope you'll take notes as we journey through today, because there's going to be a lot of principles and truths and scriptures that I want to pour out, and I would love for you to kind of journey with me and have a way to kind of later reflect on these things so that you might really receive them and learn to live in them. But Psalm 25, there's a yearning here in verses 4 and 5 where the psalmist just cries out, "Make me to know your ways, O Lord, and teach me your paths. Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation, and for you I wait all the day long." The cry is, God, I don't want religion. I want you. I don't just want to know about you, God. I want to know you. God, would you come? I'm here to wait on you. God, I'm here to say, God, I need renewal. God, I need relationship. I need you. And maybe that could be just your heart's cry in this season of your life. That of all the things that you're wanting, and I know there's probably a lot of things that you're thinking about, you're planning for, you're anticipating, you're yearning for, but of all the things that you want, would it be just more and more experience, actual personal experience with God? And this morning, we're going to be talking about God's will in your life. And anybody curious about God's will for your life? That's a big question that probably is on a lot of our minds day by day and as we look into the future. And this morning, we're going to be exploring that together. But one of the things I want to just say right out the beginning is when we really lean into the words of Jesus and we really let Him speak to us about these things, sometimes we make things more complicated than they actually have to be. Jesus shows up to His disciples and He just speaks right into exactly what they're yearning for and they're trying to figure out. They themselves are going, God, I want to figure it out. What's your will for my life? And He spoke so many things so simply. In John chapter 17, just before Jesus gave His life for us, we find Him in the garden praying. And one of the things that He cries out to the Father and He prays, He's praying, He says, "And this is eternal life, that they know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, who you sent." See, what Jesus is teaching us here is knowing God does not come from a method, does not come from a program. Knowing God comes through a person whose name is Jesus Christ. Real Christianity, if you really want to know what Christianity is about, it's this. It's not merely a religion. Of course, it's classified as a religion. We all understand that. Based on definition, it is a religion. But it's not merely a religion. It's so much more. At the heart of Christianity is an intimate love relationship with God. The heart of Jesus for you is to come and to experience Him. Not just to know about Him, but to really know Him. And for your whole life as a Christian to be this this love relationship with him that deepens and colors everything in your life. That is the heart of God for you. And through this relationship, the joy is that God reveals his will. You can't know his will, all right? If you're yearning to go, hey, God, show me your will, you can't know his will for your life apart from relationship with him. It's actually through relationship, through walking with him and talking with him. By the way, a hymn came on the other night in my house. It was an old hymn in the Baptist hymnal, and the chorus goes like this: and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me, please help me, I am his own. Right? Y'all know the song? Some of you? If you grew up in a Baptist church, you definitely do. A little girl one time was asked by her Sunday school teacher, what's the name of God? And she says, Andy. And she was very confused. What do you mean? And she started singing, Andy walks with me. Andy talks with me. Andy tells me I'm his... Sorry, that was free. You're welcome, Pastor Humor. It is what it is. It's through walking with God. I know we use that phrase a lot. It becomes trite, but it's the heart of what we're going to be talking about today. It's actually day by day, moment by moment, minute by minute, second by second, enjoying intimacy with the God of creation. It's learning relationship with him. Learning just to enjoy the love that he has for you and to give freely from your heart love back to him. Learning that kind of intimate experience with God. It's through relationship that God invites you then to know his heart, his will, his ways, and to then join him where he is at work. John chapter 10, verse 10, we're kind of flipping all around John today, right? So we're 17, now we're at 10, but John chapter 10, verse 10 is a familiar verse, but he says, the thief comes only to steal and to kill and destroy. And many of us know in life what it feels like to have things stolen, and killed, and destroyed. But Jesus says, I have come that you might have life and have it abundantly. If you want to, no matter what circumstance you're in, I'll just say this and then we'll kind of dive in closer to what we're talking about today with God's will in your life. But no matter what circumstance that you're in, you can right now know that there is a possibility to experience God more. Whatever you're going through. I found in my life, again and again and again, it's like this drawing of the Holy Spirit constantly in our lives to take us deeper, to grow us, to move us into more intimate places with God than we've ever been, to help us to know him more, to force us into situations where we have to depend wholly upon him, such that we might learn him and lean upon him and truly cry out from the gut, oh God, I need you. But it's in all of this that Jesus is beckoning us. He's wooing us. He's like, hey, I have something for you. I have come that you might experience life and life to the full. And I just wonder, what more of life is there for you to experience? Are you living on the surface in some ways? And is God not drawing you deeper? Is there more that is opportunistic for you in this very season of your life to just learn, God, I need you. God, I want you. God, my highest longing is to really experience you. That's the heart of this season, and I feel really excited about the opportunity to kind of journey through this together. I know there are many who want to hear God speaking, and I pray through this season that will be possible. I know that there are many who want to clearly identify his activity around us and in life. And I really believe that through this season that will be possible. I know there are many who feel kind of stale in relationship with God, where things just become monotonous right now. Things feel perhaps a little dry. And you hear other people talking excitedly about what God's doing in their life, and you're just sitting there kind of yearning, feeling like in your desert place, just wanting renewal. And I pray that in this season, there might be opportunity for renewal. I pray that there might be adjustments that God makes in us, and just that there would be direction that God gives to us, and I feel really hopeful, and I hope you do too. So this morning, God's will and your life. God's will and your life. And I guess I just want to start by saying, if you want to know God's will in your life, there's a simple way to find out what it is. And it's Jesus is your map. All right? This may sound silly, but we're going to get there, okay? So Jesus is my map. Can you say that with me? Jesus is my map. One more time. Jesus is my map. Okay, so a few days ago, Chris Adas, you guys heard from him last Sunday, our partner in India. He was in town. We invited him over for the house for dinner. It was a great time. Martha cooked Indian, best Indian I've ever had in America, which makes sense. She's Indian. But we bought spices I've never bought before in my life. She came over, and we had a great time. And I think our house still smells like it, right, Shelly? Yeah, it's pretty cool. We live on Mud Island, and a few years ago, my granddad showed up. He had made some extra money in the market, and he's got 4 grandkids. I'm the only grand boy. I happen to think I'm his favorite. But he had some money that he wanted to do something for each of the grandchildren. He didn't want to give anybody just cash. He wanted to do something that we'd remember him with day to day. And he knew that in Harbortown, we have golf carts. It's just a thing on Mud Island. If you've ever been up there, you know it. So one day he shows up, unannounced to our house, pulling a trailer with a golf cart. I about cried. I was so happy. It is University of Georgia red, go Dogs, and it's awesome. So anyway, Chris comes over to the house this week, and if you ever come to my house, I usually try to offer you a ride on the golf cart. It's just really fun. I think it's an awesome way to spend an afternoon. So I told Chris I was like, I'm about to blow your mind. I don't think you've ever seen this. I know you don't have it in India. We're about to go on a golf cart ride. And I said, and not just that, but you are driving. And y'all, look at this. This is Chris and me. And we had a great time together. We went out, and boy, oh boy, it was an adventure. Mainly because he was driving. He had never driven it, and he doesn't really drive a lot in India anyway. But we survived. I'm here. If you know Harbortown, there are approximately 5 million alleys and approximately 5,000 streets that all have the word harbor in them. It is very confusing. I thought at first I could send Chris to the grocery store and tell him how to get there. The reality is, there are approximately 15 ways to get to Miss Cordelia's from my house. There's just so many twists and turns in Harbortown. And I could have tried to figure out how to tell him to get there. I decided, though, I wasn't going to do that. I took him I went with him in the golf cart. And essentially, Chris had no idea. Y'all, I could have taken him to the grocery store, dropped him off there, walked back, and that would have been a fun adventure. Just say, try to find your way back home. There's no way he would have found his way. But instead of giving him directions, what I did was I just hopped in the cart with him. And I just sat beside him. And we backed out of the garage, and he goes, brother, which way do I go? And I was like, that way. And he went down the end of the street. He doesn't know Harbortown at all. We get into the street, and he goes, which way do I go now? And I just said, that way. And that process kept continuing. Every intersection, which way do we go now? That way. And I just kept pointing the way. I took him on a way that was kind of the scenic tour. We went to the back of the island, saw Wolf River, saw the pyramids, stopped for some photos, that kind of thing. I had intention with how I was leading him. But the way that I gave him a map for where he was supposed to go was I got into the golf cart with him. And I just gave him my presence. I became his map. I was his map. And I just, this way, at each intersection. All of it was new to him. He had never gone any of these ways before. He knew the end goal was the grocery store, but he had no idea how to get there. And by just offering to come alongside of him, just sitting in the car with him, I became his map. When you come to Jesus, if you go back to the phrase, how do I know God's will? And the phrase, Jesus is my map. When you come into a relationship with Jesus and you seek his will for your life, I wonder which of these do you typically do, all right? What's your request typically look like? Is it like, Lord, what do you want me to do right now? When do you want me to do it? How do you want me to do it? And where should I do it? Who do you want me to involve along the way? Just tell me what the outcome's going to be. Anybody ever find yourself praying like that? You're like basically praying that God will like reveal to you the map, like on a piece of paper, hand it to you, and then you can go off and kind of follow the map. Yeah? Most of our requests end up looking like that. But really, when we come into a relationship with Jesus, a better request would look like this. This is really his heart for us. Lord, will you just go with me? Lord, will you just, as I get to each intersection of this day, of this season, of this year, of this life, would you just show me one step at a time what to do, and I'll do it. That is the heart that God has for us as we lean in to really discover his way. When we say Jesus is our map, we're essentially recognizing that Jesus is kind of saying to us, hey, you don't need a map. You just need to follow me. One step at a time, day by day. You just need to follow me. Who knows the way for you to go? Who in each intersection, at each major life decision, who is it that really knows the way for you to fulfill God's perfect purpose for your life? Who knows how you can experience the greatest flourishing of life? I'm going to flip to one more place in John. It's a familiar verse. All of these are very familiar verses, but I'm trying to connect them together so that you can hear the heart of God. John 14, verse 6. When Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life. Will y'all say that with me? Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And then he says, no one comes to the Father except through me. Now, here's what I want you to notice. Jesus did not say, I will show you the way. Or, I'm going to give you a map. Or, I will tell you which direction to go. That's not what he said. Instead, he says what? I am the way. Lord, what is the way I should go? I am the way. Lord, what do you want? I am the way. Lord, what should I do next? I am the way. His primary invitation to us is not to go figuring out his plan and then going off to accomplish that on your own. Instead, his primary invitation to us is just to come to him. And like Chrysidas the other day, to like recognize you're in a golf cart and you're in an unfamiliar place and you don't know how to get to where you're supposed to go, and you just need someone to journey with you. I am the way, Jesus says. And I just wonder, I was sitting, Friday night we had our Global Missions Fellowship, and I was sitting there listening to these medical missionaries they work in North Africa. And they were describing just the total brokenness of circumstance that they've come to, because they went into country right before COVID and everything just went crazy. They got kicked out. They ended up getting back in. And they've been trying after trying to establish the right platform and the right strategies and to make the right contacts. And they sat there the other night with teary eyes. I literally thought they were just outright crying. Some of you over there, a couple of times I was like, I think we're here to care for them. I mean, they genuinely blessed us and helped us, but there was also this mutuality in it because they were so honest. And they got to this point in their testimony where they said, we're just so tired of trying to figure out the right strategies. We're so tired. They said, we're both really driven people. And we just put these goals out. We did this Western goal setting thing and this strategy building, and we were just trying to build an organization and try to get it done. And they're like, we're just so tired. And they said, we really believe that part of what God is wanting to do is just to get us to stop. Just stop all of our trying and just to learn to just invite him and just trust him. And I just thought, man, it just resonated so deeply with me personally, where we are even as a church, perhaps even with you. Is anybody here tired of driving on your own? Anybody feel like you got set out on a golf cart and you don't know the way and you're exhausting yourself trying to figure it out? Anybody ever been a stubborn man who doesn't know the directions and yet you will not stop to ask for help? I've definitely done that before. What does it take to break us down to the point where we go, I'm doing this on my own. I'm trying so hard. I'm pushing. I'm devising. I'm strategizing. I'm planning. I'm going. I'm giving. But we're just giving ourselves to it, and yet it's just all us. And we know it. We feel it. Just the drive or the helplessness of being set out in a direction, and you don't really know how you're supposed to get there. But yet you haven't stopped to say, I don't know. I need help. Any of us here admit that is often how we live life day to day. If you're tired of driving, just hear the invitation of God. Look, you're not meant to drive on your own. You're not meant to be given a map and then you just go off apart from God and figure out how to live in that. No, you're meant to walk in fullness and in freedom. And that comes when you get to the point where you go, God, I'm tired. I'm tired of trying to make this happen on my own. I'm tired of trying to figure this out on my own. God, I want you to take over. Jesus, would you be my map? Would you just take over? Would you drive? And let me just ride with you. It reminds me of the verse. I'm actually going to use a different gospel now than just John. Matthew chapter 11. When Jesus says, and again, a very familiar passage of Scripture where he says, come to me. Come to me. All of you who are weary and heavy laden, if you're tired of driving on your own, listen, come to me, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and I am lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. It's a picture of these two kind of animals being yoked together. And it's this picture of going, you need to recognize, if you go out on your own trying to do this work, you're never going to do it. You weren't designed to do this on your own. You just weren't. And you're trying to carry this heavy weight, and you're trying to go out there and to be about this work, and there's no wonder you're getting tired if you're doing it on your own. There's no wonder you're stressed out. There's no wonder you're going in circles and you're not productive. There's no wonder you feel helpless and exhausted and frustrated and anxious and worried. There's no wonder, because you weren't meant to do it on your own. You weren't meant to figure it out on your own and to do it on your own. You were meant to just journey with the strong one. Jesus is saying, I'm the strong ox. I'm the strong one. I actually want to do this work. This work I am designed to do. I can do. This is my work, and I can accomplish it. All I'm asking for you to do is just to yoke alongside of me. You just come alongside of me. Let me put my yoke on you, and you just walk with me. I'll bear the burden. My yoke is easy. My burden is light. He's saying, I'm carrying the weight for you. Your invitation is just to come and walk with me. Let me carry all that needs to be carried, and you come and walk with me. He takes ownership, and we join him on the journey. It's like, okay, I have two girls, Caroline and Emma, 10 now. I'm so old. 10 and 4. And one of the things we love to do in our neighborhood is we go on adventures. Anybody ever been on an adventure with a mom or a dad? Sometimes I feel like we need to be little kids again, okay? We need to get back in the adventure mindset. One of the things that you have an opportunity to do with God is to recognize it's almost like God as our Father is like inviting us on like a daily adventure with him. Our girls love it when I'm like, let's go on an adventure in the woods, and I have no idea personally what we're going to do, but I know we'll be together and it's going to be a great time, all right? They definitely have no idea what they're going to do, but they're excited because they just want to be with Dad. There's this invitation that God gives us. It's almost like this daily adventure with him, where we just come along and it's like one day at a time. We immediately have this opportunity to just learn, to just let God lead us today. It's not, what should I do with tomorrow? So many times we get caught up, don't we, in thinking about tomorrow. That's why Jesus says, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself, but rather focus on today. It's not about what we're going to do tomorrow. It's rather about what is he doing today, and what is he inviting me into? It's this idea of a daily adventure with God, one day at a time. I think about in the Old Testament in Genesis chapter 12, all right? Genesis chapter 12 is kind of the start of the story of Abraham. Now, many of us know the story of Abraham, but I think very few of us live like Abraham. Have the kind of faith to actually journey with God in the way that Abraham was called to journey with God, and yet I think it's what God's inviting us into. The scripture says in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 5, now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I'm going to show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I'm going to bless you, and I'm going to make your name great so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Now Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran, and Abram took his wife Sarah, and Lot his brother's son, and their possessions that they gathered, and the people that they had acquired in Haran, and they set out to go to the land of Canaan. I want you to go back to verse 1 and 2, if you don't mind. I want you to look at the slide for a second. I want you to tell me, how much did Abraham know when he set out? How much detail had God given him before he called him, hey, just come with me? What's the answer? Very, very little, right? He didn't know a whole lot. How many of you would pick up your wife and your kids and your extended family and your possessions, and you move to an entirely different place just based on God journeying with you and going, hey, I'm inviting you to come with me to a new place I'm taking you. It's a place of blessing. It's a place of fullness. I have good plans for you. Just come. That's about it. That's all Abram knew. And by faith, he got up and went. Now, more was revealed to Abraham step by step along the journey, wasn't it? It was almost like that golf cart ride. Turn here. Turn here. Oh, what now? Turn here. But the invitation was for Abraham not to have all the details laid out before he began, but rather, God was saying, Abraham, you want to experience me? Come. I am the way. I am your map. Come and trust me. Learn me. Learn me by not knowing all the details. Learn me by not figuring it all out, by doing it all yourself. This is something I want to do, Abraham. I want to journey with you. I'm inviting you to journey with me. Just come and trust me. Take the first step. And that's all he had. And he did. But you know the end of the story. He was incredibly blessed. God blessed his faith. He counted it as righteousness. And God did exceedingly and abundantly beyond anything that Abraham could have ever asked at this point in his journey. How did it happen? By Abraham choosing to trust God and to lean into the invitation to experience him step by step along the way. God is our goal as we seek the answer to the question, what is God's will for my life? It's more of God. And we learn more of God as we just let go and learn to just journey with him for who he is. Caroline, the other day, Michelle was like, good gracious, she is your child. It was Saturday morning, and we had just gotten back from breakfast and a walk, and I said to the girls, I said, hey girls, what's the plan for the day? And Caroline shouts back down, she says, plan? Dad, you're ruining the fun. She's like, I don't want a plan. The minute you tell me there's a plan, and you've just ruined the adventure. Some of our personalities are more naturally like that. Mine certainly is. But really in a relationship with God, there's this invitation. Don't get so caught up in the plans that you miss the journey, that you miss the joy of actually just learning God step by step. Matthew, well, I think the next slide speaks to just kind of the everyday adventure of just, God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do today? And I spoke to that in Matthew 6:33, where Jesus says, seek first. Just seek me each day. Like what if, this is so simple, right? But what if you learn to be a little child again? What if in the morning you wake up and like a little child running to their father, you don't know the plan for the day, but you just want to know from the Father, what is the plan for the day? What if you learn to do that? What if part of spiritual renewal in your life in this season looks like you becoming like a little child again and laying down all you're trying to do and just to go, God, what are we doing today? What are you doing, and how can I join you there? That's really the heart at this season. It's a needed shift that's needed. Many of us ask the question, what's God's will for my life? Right? How many of you have asked that question before? Honest show of hands? Yes, probably. Yeah, almost everybody. But really, there's a shift that's needed. Because really, it's the wrong question to ask. And if we want to know the answer to this question, we've got to ask a different question. And really, the right question to ask is this one. What is God's will? Without you framing it all about you, what if you just frame it all about God? Where it's less about, God, what is your will for my life? But God, just what is your will? Where are you at work? And then in discovering that question, then we have the opportunity to then lean in and make adjustments to actually join him where he is at work. Rather than begging him to join us where we're trying to go, we go to him and say, God, I want to know where you're going, and I just want to join you there. That's the opportunity that we have in this. Jesus modeled this for us. If you go back to the Gospel of John, and I promise we're getting to 15. I told you to turn there originally, and I haven't even taught that yet. John chapter 5, I want to point your attention to how Jesus lived his life. In John chapter 5, verse 17, Jesus answered them, "My Father is working until now, and I am working." And then if you skip down in that chapter, if you go to verse 19, Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of his own accord, but he can only do what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, that the Son does likewise. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all that he himself is doing, and greater works are these that he will show him, that you may marvel." Make a little list of the things that Jesus is saying here. He's saying, first of all, the Father has been working right up until now. God is always at work around you. Which, by the way, I'm going to show you this in a second on the screen, but that is reality one that I'm covering today. The first reality to experience God is this, that you have to learn God is always at work around you. That's what Jesus is teaching us. He's always at work. And he's always at work around us. So if we go back to John 5, some of these principles, that first one is God is always, the Father has been working right up until now. If you go back that one slide. Father's been working right up until now. Number two, he's saying, now the Father has me working. So God is at work, but also he's inviting me into that work. Number three, Jesus is saying, but I do not do this work on my own initiative. I don't make a plan and then go to God and say, would you just please put your certificate of approval on this plan? Rather, I go to God and I go, God, what is your plan? How many of us make plans and we go to God for a blessing? Rather than the other way around, we start with God and we go, God, what is your plan? Because it's already blessed. That's the needed shift that's many of us, I really believe, God's drawing us to make. What is God doing around you? And how can you join him there? It's not your initiative, but it's his. Jesus says, number four, I watch to see what the Father's doing. Would that describe you? Are you watching? Are you watchful toward what the Father's doing? And then he says, and the Father loves me. And he shows me everything that he's doing. And what I do is just join him in what he's doing. So again, like a little boy, and Jesus is, right, the Son of the Father. He's saying, here's my joy. Here's how I live my life. I just watch God. I just watch for what he is doing around me. These are things that are already blessed, the things that are already of his initiative, and I just join him there. I know the Father loves me, and I know he invites me to join him in his work. And so I just wake up every day, and I just look to see what the Father's doing. He shows me what he's doing, and I just join him there. That is the simple way of experiencing God. So the reality is God is always at work around you, right? And this is exactly how Jesus commissioned us. As he was sent, so he sent us. Jeremiah chapter 18, verses 1 to 6, there's a beautiful little analogy that God gives us where he compares us to clay in a potter's hands. Have y'all ever heard this verse? In verses 5 and 6, he says, the word of the Lord came to me, O house of Israel, can I not do with you as this potter has done, declares the Lord? Behold, like the clay in the potter's hand, so are you in my hand, O house of Israel. Some of y'all have been to Bell Tower, perhaps, or taken a class, a pottery class, or you appreciate the work. But one of my favorite things in the world is to collect pottery coffee mugs. Michelle has told me if I bring another one home, I'm kicked out of the house because there's no more room. She wouldn't really do that, but I love pottery. I love pottery coffee mugs. And if you've ever seen it, it's a beautiful process. I got a picture here where it shows just a potter who's got clay in his hands. And this picture that God gives is really interesting because he says, like, I want you to understand something about the way that I've made you and want to have a relationship with you. Like, you're the pot, and I'm the hand. I'm the potter. You're the clay. And really, there's two things that clay must do. And it's really only two things. It has to be responsive to the potter so that the potter can make it into an instrument of his choosing. So you've got to be moldable. That's the first thing. If you're clay, you've got to be moldable. And the second thing is it has to remain in the potter's hand to be effective. Even after it's made, like a coffee cup, it's not effective unless it's still in the hand. So if you think about this in terms of our relationship with God, is really to be a servant of God, you've got to maintain a posture in your life where you're moldable. And some of us, I fear, have gotten to places and seasons of life where we've kind of hardened up and we kind of resist. And we're not as responsive to the potter's touch as we used to be. Whether it's bitterness or sinfulness, whether it's selfishness, self-centeredness, whether it's pride and arrogance and not wanting to really be broken, not wanting to lay down our way, not wanting to lay down our sin, where we've just gotten to a place where we're kind of hardened. We're kind of hardened to the potter's touch. And yet he says, you've got to be moldable in my hands, but you also have to remain in my hand. You've got to remain in the hand of the master. You've got to make your daily goal just abiding with me. And this brings us to John 15 that I used to close today's message. Because the passage that we heard read earlier, that I asked you to turn to earlier, is the key to all of this. John 15:5, where Jesus says, I am the vine, and you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. He said, look, you gotta recognize, like, your whole job. Like, if you're a branch, right? Like, your whole job, this is all you gotta do. You just gotta stay attached to the vine. Like, that's all you have to do. Not that hard of a job. Just focus on the vine. If you could just focus, branch, on drawing all that you can. I'm picturing this as the vine and I'm the branch. If you could just focus on attaching yourself and drawing all that you can that the vine gives. If you could take everything the vine gives you and just receive it and just rest in it and just let it flow through you. Make your focus the vine, staying attached here. And if you do that, amazing things will happen. You will fulfill your purpose, branch. The vine will give you life and actually will allow you to bear fruit. You just make your focus abiding with me. That's what Jesus is saying in John 5, where he's like, look, this is my focus. I cannot do anything of my own accord. My ambition is just to stay close to God, just to watch and to wait on what he's doing. So often in our doing culture, y'all know we have a doing culture, right? Anybody a doer in the room? You just like getting things done? Yes. Where you're driven and you're a doer. So often in our doing culture, we hear the phrase, don't just stand there, do something. Anybody heard that before? What are you doing just standing there? Just do something. And there's a time for doing. But I'm afraid sometimes that we miss out on the real invitation to experience God. Because God doesn't speak to us like that first. Rather, God speaks to us and he says this, don't just do something, stand there. What do you mean? Stand there. Is he wanting us to be lazy? No. There's a place for doing. But the fruit of the branch, we're talking about fruit stuff. The doing stuff should be fruit stuff. The fruit stuff, I'm imagining my leg is the fruit. Some of y'all were like, why is Barrett, is he okay? The fruit stuff that comes is a product of abiding stuff. If we go after fruit stuff first, we end up drifting apart from the vine, and that's what Jesus says, apart from me, you can do nothing. Listen, You have a good heart. You want fruitfulness, right? But the problem is, if you turn your back on the vine and you go after fruitfulness, you're going to find yourself drifting away from the source of life itself and actually from the source of fruit itself. And you will become so barely hanging on to then you become detached, and the very thing you want to do, the fruit you want to see, will not be possible because apart from the vine, the branch can do nothing. Your first priority does not need to be the fruitfulness stuff, but rather the abiding stuff. Before you focus on doing, focus on remaining attached to God. I think of Elijah. God invites us, enter a love relationship with me. Get to know me. Adjust your life to me. Let me love you and reveal myself through you to a watching world. Let your priority be the abiding stuff. Why do I say Elijah? He's outnumbered 850 to 1. He's out there going, this is what my God can do. And if the fire hadn't come and consumed the sacrifice like Elijah had proposed, he would have totally failed. It would have probably cost him his life. He wanted the fruitfulness stuff. But how did that fire come? Didn't come by him devising a plan to figure out how to light a fire out of wet wood, figuring out a strategy and getting to work doing it. It came as he got on his face and he worshiped the Lord and he said, God, I can't, but I believe you can. And he waited there in an abiding posture. And in the posture of abiding is where God met him. He had heard what God was wanting to do, and he believed God, and he joined him there, but then he waited for God to do it because it wasn't Elijah's work, it was God's work. God was at work around him, and he was attuned to that. And he adjusted himself to that, and then he waited on God to do the very thing that he had revealed he wanted to do. Oh, if more of us were not like that day to day. Attune. The question is not what do you want to do today? It's God, what do you want to do today? How are you at work around me right now? What is already blessed? What are the ways right now that you are genuinely at work? How can I be so attuned to you that I come and just yoke up with you? Because it's in that posture of abiding, of just journeying with Jesus day by day that we experience the joy of relationship with him, but also experience the joy of seeing him work in ways that bring him great glory and our good.